Welcome to the Pharmacy Leaders Podcast with your host, Tony Guerra. The Pharmacy Leaders Podcast is a member of the Pharmacy Podcast Network, with interviews and advice on building your professional network, brand, and a purposeful second income from students, residents, and innovative professionals.
All right. Well, welcome back to the Pharmacy Leaders Podcast. We have Kelly Haws, who's helping us create this evergreen content. We're the first interview group we had about culture and fit. If you haven't listened to that, that's 7 of the most common questions that you're going to get right off the bat to see if you're going to be a good fit for a company, if you fit within their culture, but then also looking at yourself and making sure that it's a company that you want to work for. So let's welcome Kelly back to the Pharmacy Leaders Podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me, Tony.
Okay, let's start with the second part. We're going to talk about work experience and career goals. You are playing the role of someone who actually has no pharmacist work experience, but you do have work experience as a technician in a pharmacy. So can you just tell us, first of all, what to make sure that we do talk about and what to make sure that we don't do, extending maybe a little bit more than we have in experience, and being honest about our experience and how to kind of make up for a lack of, in the field experience.
So when you're talking about your current experience you have, I definitely think it's important to keep in mind that you may have brushed up on it during your rotation, but there are very few employers that are going to see that as actual working experience. If you don't have any experience, other than rotations and maybe working as a tech or an intern, you can talk about the things you enjoyed during those years that you did that, and then bring up the things that you liked most, but definitely encourage your future employers to give you the opportunity to learn. And if you're going to go that route, make sure you explain to them that you are a quick learner and, can tackle computer systems and stuff like that. But if you're applying to a role within a hospital that, has a strong antimicrobial stewardship role that they need filled, and that's not what you have experience in, I just wouldn't go there yet until you can do it. But if they're a community pharmacy that maybe has some popular medications you're just not familiar with, brush up on them before your interview so you are at least able to talk about them, before the interview starts.
Okay. Well, I've got a couple of questions for you. We'll do about 7 questions, same as before, and just tweak them a little bit to fit someone who's just graduated. So I see that you worked as a technician in your P2 and P3 years for one of our competitors, actually, but then you came over to us here in your last year. What made you leave that other company?
Well, I did enjoy working there as a pharmacy tech. I did like the people. Unfortunately, they ended up changing a lot of the managers at several of the locations, and the culture and the focus on the patients just completely shifted. I wasn't comfortable working just for, a script goal. I wanted to work for the patient, and I didn't feel that the patients were necessarily being made the main focus of the work. So I did start looking elsewhere, and that's how I came upon your job posting.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit about what you were thinking as you were answering that question. Anytime you make a transition, that's going to be something that as an employer I circle. How do you best answer that question?
So I would start with what you didn't like about the role that you were leaving. I mean, it may be the case where they just weren't hiring at that time, or, something was going on.
That's a good one. Okay.
Yeah. And that was going to be my other option.
You didn't hire. You weren't hiring.
Yeah, exactly. They just weren't hiring. But you don't want to make your future employer feel like they're the second best, that you're their second choice. So what I would do is just give a couple different examples of what you didn't really care for working for that pharmacy, and what would make you look somewhere else. And then what you're looking for, right? If, like, for me, it would be high customer service level pharmacy. So I would bring that up so that the new employer knows that I'm customer driven. So within your answer, you just don't make them feel like they're second best. If for whatever reason the internship ended, or, you can let them know what was going on, but I wouldn't go into too much detail. And I would just, you have to just be a little careful about how you answer it.
Yeah,
But
it's a trap for sure. It's a trap.
it is, definitely. But bring up something that you didn't care for, that you are looking for in the new role, because that will just show your future employer that, this is something that I enjoy as my role, and I just wasn't getting it from that other place.
Okay. Let's segue into the next question. So now that you are with us, what's been your favorite part of your role here at X company?
My favorite thing about working here were the patients. The patients are very happy, and the employers are happy.
Oh, well, now that you do work with us, what is your favorite part of your role with our company here?
I do enjoy working here. I love that all of the employees get along really well, and we're able to focus our energy on keeping the patients happy. We focus on filling their refills within a certain amount of time. We don't have as many patient issues because all of the patients, enjoy coming to this pharmacy. So it makes for a less stressful day when we have a really good work environment. So I would say that's my favorite part.
Okay. Well, as a supervisor, I know even the best pharmacies that I'm in charge of always can improve. What is maybe something that is not your favorite in the position that you're in right now, or maybe something that we can improve on as a company?
I would continue to focus more on the customers. I think sometimes, we've made great strides to keep their refill time as short as possible, but it doesn't always work, if we don't have the medication in stock, or there's something wrong with their prescription and we have to call into the doctor. So I would say focusing also on our communication with the patient, so that they know before they leave the store that their prescription's not going to be ready. We can review it, make sure we have it in stock, and make sure we're able to fill it within that timely manner before they've actually left, expecting it to be ready in 15 minutes.
Okay, so you've answered two questions. What's your favorite? What's your least favorite about working with the company? And you've answered them very well, but as an interviewee, I would feel like I'm treading on eggshells with these questions. Tell me a little bit about how you're thinking, even your pace of answer slowed down. You were watching every single word you said. How do you walk through those eggshells without getting egg on your face, I guess?
Yeah, well, they're definitely scary. You don't want to tell the company that you're working for that they have so many issues. But most of the time,
I'm here to fix everything that's wrong with this company. I'm excited to be here. Yeah.
Exactly. Because, in the end, you're a newer employee. You may have some experience before being a pharmacist, at least within the tech role, but you're still a newer employee. So you don't know all the in and outs. What I would say is pick something small that, makes sense, really. We all have times when the patients drop off their prescriptions and, all of a sudden it gets to the pharmacist and something's wrong with it. But they've already left and they come back and they're frustrated. So if you're in a customer facing setting, talking about the patients and how to improve their satisfaction is always going to be a win, because that's their pharmacy's goal too. You may have an idea that, maybe they've been trying to work on for a while, but they haven't gotten, just quite where they want to be with that customer satisfaction. So pick something that's not going to hurt their feelings, that's obvious to them as well. That person interviewing knows exactly what you're talking about. They know all the issues that come up. So just pick something that's easily fixable that you would be able to help out with within your role.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about a summer internship that you had. So I saw that you worked as looked like a paying job for that competitor of ours, but then you took a 3-month internship in summer at another company, but then came to us. Can you tell me a little bit about that internship and why you decided not to work with them, because they're also in town here?
Absolutely. I had a really good opportunity to work with one of my preceptors. And so I thought it might be good to get into something that's a little bit different, still outpatient pharmacy, but their focus was different. And I wanted to expand my experience within that too. They do a couple more specialty medications that I wanted to get familiar with. And so I took a leap to gain experience there, and they only needed somebody for the summer. So then I was able to come back to more of the traditional retail setting.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit about your thoughts with that. Very often students do go away to an internship and they could have maybe gotten a job with that company, but they decide not to. So tell me a little bit about your thoughts.
Yeah, have a good reason of why you're not, why you wanted to go somewhere else, and make it beneficial to your goal, to your career goal. So if you're just hopping from retail to retail to retail, it doesn't always look the best. I mean, they may just not have the opportunity for you, which is fine. That's an honest answer. But, most likely you went to school in a different town and then you went back home for the summer. So you took a different internship. You can talk about that. Or if you did find that you were going to gain a separate set of skills within a different opportunity, talk about that and talk about, why that was beneficial to you to learn that separate set of skills, and then to be able to go back into a different setting that you were already experienced in.
Okay, awesome. All right. Well, I've been interviewing people all morning. I'm going to be interviewing people all afternoon. I would prefer not to have to interview anyone next week. Can you just tell me why I should just pick you for this role and just be done with the interviews, and then I can have my next week to actually do the things that I want to do as a supervisor?
Yes, you should definitely consider me for this role because I am hardworking. I truly love working within this field, and I am a very fast learner. I will pick up any system that you guys are working with, and I'm easy to get along with, and I'm really excited about this opportunity. So, I'm hoping to move on to the next step in the interviews and looking forward to the opportunity to working with you.
Awesome. Well, you put a lot in there, and you answered with, I think, exactly what they would want to hear. But tell me a little bit about your thoughts as you're carving that answer together.
Sure. So definitely, talk about yourself. This is one of those, selling parts. By now, you've heard some of the questions that they've asked you. So you've already went over some of your strengths. They've asked you about your past experience. So just kind of, sum it up in one little package. You don't have to go into too much detail, but tell them that, if you're hardworking, tell them you're hardworking, because they want to hear that. And honestly, if you don't tell them you're hardworking, you're probably not going to go to the next step, because they expect to hear that from everybody. But, touch upon some of those things that makes you a little bit different than some of the people that you've worked with. So if you're good at computer systems, absolutely talk about that, because that's going to be something that is, starting to train. They want to make sure you can pick up things pretty quickly. And then, let them know that you are appreciative of the opportunity to work with them. You don't have the role yet, but you should definitely be appreciative of the chance to interview and the chance to have the role. And, I when I interview people, I love talking to people who are truly excited about working there. And you can hear it in their voice. You can see it on their face when they are excited about just the opportunity. And that will usually set them apart for me when I'm interviewing them, because they are truly excited about it. It's a nice feeling to leave with.
No, definitely. Okay. Well, it sounds like you're very energetic and, could do some great things with this company, but what do you see yourself doing in the first 3 months? What goals would you have for the first 90 days if you were employed here?
So first 90 days, I would absolutely focus on making sure I understood the system. I understood, what workflow needed to be done to make the day most successful. I would work on building a rapport with the fellow employees as well as the patients themselves, just to kind of establish my place within the pharmacy. And then after I, learned everything and set up that initial relationship with everybody, I would start focusing on how to grow within my career. I do have aspirations to be a pharmacy manager. And so I would like to learn more about the company itself and maybe more about maybe the back business on, how to grow within a leadership role.
Okay, well, that's a great segue into the next kind of part of this question, which is where would you see yourself in 5 years then after, maybe if you've started working here?
So within 5 years, I would definitely want to be an experienced pharmacy manager. That's been one of my goals since I started pharmacy school. I enjoy leadership. I enjoy working with people. And I would, love to be managing one of these stores. So within those 5 years, I would like to already, have established myself as a leader and grow within the company to be a pharmacy manager.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a little bit of a curveball here. And I'm going to ask you, so are you interested in a full-time position throughout your career here, or would there be any time where you'd maybe want to switch to part-time?
Well, I would prefer to work full-time. I do have my student loans that are coming up and I need to start paying back. And, I truly want to get the most out of my experience here. And I feel like working full-time would allow me to, learn the system the best, be the best I can be within the workflow, and to gain the relationship with my peers. If at this time all you have is a part-time opportunity open, I would still be interested in taking it if there was an opportunity for me to be full-time at some point.
Awesome. What I was really trying to get at there, and you answered beautifully, but many of the, and we talked about this on the previous episode talking to CareerStaff Rx, that the job you want in full-time may not be available right now, and they may want to have you as a floater or something to just kind of continue the interview for months or maybe a year, something like that. Can you talk about how that part-time, full-time question comes to you and how you kind of work with that?
It definitely comes up a lot. And I encourage the pharmacists that I work with, ask themselves, is this the role that they want? Kind of like what we discussed before. Make sure it's the role that you want. If it is, if this is what you really want to do, then yes, definitely take off that opportunity if they're offering you part-time, especially right now with the saturation of pharmacists, really across the nation. If you have an opportunity to be part-time in the setting that you prefer to work in, you have to take it. And it also makes you look like a better candidate if you are willing to take less hours to be a part of their team, because it really shows that you really want that opportunity. You really want to work for that company, but make sure that you ask if there's opportunity to go into full-time so that they know you're in it for the long run. You want that longevity and you do want to grow within the company.
Okay. And let's ask what I think is the absolute most difficult question to answer. What's your salary expectation out of this position? Yes.
Now I have to think about what
you can, it's fine. But I just know this one is just like a punch in the face, like, whoa, because sometimes the job postings are like, they just say, commensurate, or, it fits within, within certain range or something like that. But what are your salary expectations? So I'm asking you to give me a number.
I'm looking to make about $58 an hour.
And would you answer it like that? Just, okay.
I would probably say hourly. I don't know if I would go salary. It depends, especially if you're working part-time, because it's going to throw you in this instant calculation response where you have to think, okay, I know how much I need to make hourly. Salary, I know I would want to be if I was working a full-time salary. But if it's following up a part-time question, I would probably just shoot a number hourly that you're looking to get, because that will be reflective if you're working full-time. they'll offer you something. But this is one of the scariest questions. And, even outside of pharmacy, people asking me this, you don't want to ask too little. You don't want to ask too much and just be knocked off, the top of the list immediately. So what I would do is go to that company's Glassdoor review and see what the average salary is for that region. And it's going to vary state to state, but look to see what they're paying their employees, because that way you can make sure that your expectations will fit just right in between the low and the high end.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And coming from Iowa, it would be pretty funny if I interviewed for a California job. I'd say something like 50 or 52, and you'd be like, really? You'll work for that? And it's like, oops, went too low, rewind. But no, I think it's pretty easy to find somebody in that company that could answer the question like, well, what do you make? Or what do you see that they're hiring at? But certainly I think that as supervisors, I don't necessarily know that they have a ton of give in terms of that. I feel like the company generally sets that, but maybe the independents might have a little bit more. But I think your advice is right on, which is don't go too high, but also don't devalue yourself by saying, well, I'd take this much. I've got student loans. I want to get something right now, So.
Yeah, have a number in mind. And like you said, don't devalue yourself. I think that's something you learn along the way, as if you worked for several companies, or if you've even moved up and you're getting promotions and you're asking for a specific raise. Know your value and know what's comparable within your market so that you can offer, and it's an educated number that is similar to what other people will be making, but will be enough for you to survive, because you do have those loans and you work so hard for that license. So don't offer yourself for too cheap, because then as you grow too, your salary increases aren't going to be as high either. So definitely keep that in mind.
Okay. All right. Well, I've asked you a bunch of questions about work experience and career goals. Any wrap-up thoughts that we would have on this second section?
Just as we said before, just make sure you're honest with yourself on what your skill set is and your experience. And if you do need some additional training on, a few things, don't be afraid to share that. You don't want your interviewer to think that you're an expert in, such and such therapy, and you really have no clue what it is. So I would definitely keep honest within this section.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being on the Pharmacy Leaders Podcast.
Support for this episode comes from Good Night Pharmacology, 350 brand and generic name drugs with classifications, a leading resource for students in the United States, United Kingdom, and Australia. Print, ebook, and audiobook available on Audible, iTunes, and Amazon.com. Thank you for listening to the Pharmacy Leaders Podcast with your host, Tony Guerra. Be sure to share the show with the hashtag #PharmacyLeaders.